Conservation Commission of Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm going to take one thing out of order here, because it's going to be tabled, so I don't want to hold up the parties involved. Under our requests for certificate of compliance and extensions, we have SE 42-2776 and SE 42-2887, Brewster Road, Chilton Street. This is a complicated situation. I want everybody to be up to speed before we discuss. So I move to table this request for an extension to the June 5th meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Sorry you had to come in.
No problem. Always a pleasure to see the new dates.
Okay, we have minutes?
Yes, the 3:20 minutes with no edits, and then the April 3rd minutes as edited. And there's a typo that appears, says April 6th. It should
Okay,
read
so it's
April
the
3rd.
Okay. So I move to approve the March 20th minutes as edited. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the April 3rd minutes, no changes there?
April 3rd was
I'm sorry.
edited. So the April 3rd did have edits. The
Okay.
March 20th did not. Those
All
were
right.
as written.
Okay, I move that we approve the March 20th minutes as written. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and I move to approve the April 3rd minutes as edited. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, on to our business items. Business item 1 is Hannahbrook Way, hazardous tree removal. Is there someone here to discuss?
I can
Nope.
discuss this one.
Mike?
I was out on the property with the president of the condo association over at Hannahbrook Way. There are a few hazard trees on the property. There are images of them here, but as you can see, some of the trees are leaning. This one is dead. This one's clearly dead. And there are a few white pines, 3 to be exact, that are growing on a very shallow portion of soil above bedrock. And combined with the white pines' shallow root systems, pose a hazard to these homes here, as you can see. And there are 7 trees total. They're all marked on the property. And the condo president was hoping to get the okay to do the cutting if it was possible before the meeting. I haven't heard that he was able to line that up. So, yes.
Yeah, I don't think he's done it because I went and looked.
Yeah. Yeah.
The day before, yesterday, I think, and I could see the trees. Are these on conservation land, or are they behind conservation
No, they are
markers?
behind conservation markers. As you can see, they're in close proximity with the yard ending and the large majority of these trees being within about 10 feet of the conservation markers.
Okay. And is the condo association going to pay for it?
Yes, they will. And I've also instructed the president to stump the trees at 4 feet
4 feet?
and to notify the Audubon Society, which owns land abutting the condo association.
Okay. Any comments from the commission? Hearing none, I move to approve this as a de minimis activity. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Business item 2 is 233 Foster Ave. Discussion around skirting under the house. And is someone here?
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks, how are you?
Very good.
Start with your name and address. Record?
Good evening. My name is Jim Bonacier, and I stand before you today as the proud owner of 233 Foster Ave here in Marshfield. This house holds a special place in my heart, as it has been part of my family for generations. From my mother's childhood summers spent here to my own children growing up in this home, the bonds and memories we share with this property are irreplaceable. The decision to rebuild this house was not taken lightly. Faced with disrepair, lack of essential amenities, and safety concerns, I opted to rebuild after years of planning. My vision is simple. I want my children to inherit this house to create their own memories in this beautiful location surrounded by the sea and beach. The process to rebuild has been a long and tedious one. I have completed 2 permit applications, received conservation approval twice, and neighborhood notifications have been mailed twice. As we near completion of this project, a recent requirement has surfaced. The building inspector has mandated approval from the Conservation Board for the skirt around the lower portion of the house. The building inspector confirmed that we had correctly submitted a final design of the house showing the skirt and have complied with the orders of conditions. Regardless of having those approvals, we would again need conservation approval to proceed. The proposed skirt design features 1x6 PVC AZEK trim with a 1-inch gap secured by 6 stainless steel finish nails. This design not only meets FEMA guidelines and Marshfield Building Code regulations, but mirrors the aesthetics of numerous properties within our neighborhood. As I reflect on the neighborhood's transformation over the years, I have seen once dirt roads and driveways converted to a sea of asphalt. An outdated seawall has been replaced with a stronger, larger, and more efficient one. I have seen numerous solid panel fences, walls, and patios installed throughout the area. I have seen minimal signs of sand migration or dune shifting. I question the necessity of strict requirements for a house skirt. My neighbors have embraced similar designs, and I believe our proposed solution is both functional and visually pleasing. When I look at public record, I see clear violations of code without consequence. I come before this board seeking consistency and fairness in the decision-making process. I have complied with all rules and regulations, as the building inspector can attest to. Our suggested design adheres to all federal guidelines as well as Marshfield regulation, ensuring the safety of our neighborhood. I humbly request your approval for this skirt design, allowing us to move forward with the rebuilding process. Thank you for your time and consideration. I appreciate the opportunity to share my vision with you this evening.
Thank you. Mike, do you have anything?
Yes, I will say that guidance was received from CZM on this topic in April 21st, 2023. I can just read the statement they provided if you'd like. Most of your coastal dunes on barrier beaches are behind seawalls, where there's often little vegetation. In that setting, I could see making the argument that lattice with at least 50% open space could be allowed below elevated houses. You may want to consider whether you want to allow lattice in velocity zones to minimize the debris in a storm. If you allow lattice that is at least 50% open, I recommend leaving the bottom 2 feet of space above the ground to allow wind and water transport of sand and cobble-sized sediments found in the coastal dunes in Marshfield. If someone came in with a new house on an undeveloped dune or a project on a coastal dune that is not landward of the seawall, I would recommend no lattice or enclosures to allow as much vegetation as possible to stabilize the dune.
Thank you.
That is from Rebecca Haney with Massachusetts
Coastal
Coastal Zone Management.
Zone management.
I had brought a number of pictures, and I had forwarded them to Mike, and I don't know, Mike, were you able to put those up?
Yep.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
up
okay.
there right
We have
now.
'em.
Oh, great, thank you. So,
What I can't tell from these pictures is what the actual flood zone is on any, on the various properties. And that makes a difference. Some of the inconsistencies you point out, I think you referenced a neighbor at 14 12th Road. That permitting was issued in 2017, before any updated guidance has come through. And obviously, we are facing municipal vulnerability plans and are revamping how we think about these things. Would Mr. Stewart like to say anything?
Excuse me, Andrew Stewart, Marshfield Building Commissioner and Floodplain Administrator. Obviously, Mr. Bonacia, I've worked with him now for quite a long time with this project. It started out as an addition. It became much larger project, hence coming back. And, we made him comply with an additional footing requirement. It was originally approved by the commission to have a concrete pier with a spread footing, and then that was changed back to a helical situation for the additional footings so it could comply with coastal dune requirements. Like I said in my notes to the commission, this is a really difficult situation because we have FEMA guidance and we have building code requirements. And most of these houses, as long as they have 1 inch spacing between slats, whether they are constructed of like a primed finger jointed pine that's painted, or if it's constructed of plastic, that complies with the FEMA requirements and complies with the building code requirements. What it doesn't comply with is the guidance from the Office of Coastal Zone Management. And this is my opinion, that is guidance. And you can, as commissioners, choose to take that guidance and apply it or not, depending on how it applies to your locality. And I agree with Mr. Bonacia, this is a completely built environment. From the seawall all the way back to Bass Creek, I understand that it is a barrier beach, and that barrier beaches are assumed to be coastal dunes, but it is, like I said, a completely developed, built environment. We have solid wall, vinyl fencing everywhere, and we have non-compliant houses everywhere with basements and garages. Mr. Bonacia and many other builders and owners in the area have taken the extra steps to elevate houses and build them on compliant foundations. And when you do that, you obviously lose functionality that you would in any other house. You don't have a basement, you don't have a garage, you don't have these amenities for storage. So most of these people just are looking for a little space under their house to store kayaks and minimal lawn furniture, that kind of stuff, a lawnmower, this type of thing. Stuff that they can shove under a 4-foot space and leave there for the summer season or so it's protected. And they're looking for a little bit of privacy on that stuff. And leaving 2 feet up off the ground does not provide any sort of privacy. I would argue that lattice all the way to the ground or skirting all the way to the ground does not hamper any sort of sand migration or anything in these areas that are already completely built out with asphalt and non-compliant houses and all of the other appurtenances that they have. So I would recommend that we follow FEMA guidance. Obviously, it's completely up to the board's discretion, and I appreciate that. But I do feel that house skirts, as long as they comply with FEMA for that flood zone, should be allowed in that capacity. And I think that the guidance from the Office of Coastal Zone Management is really designed to protect legitimate barrier beaches like on the Cape and areas that protect the built environment, quite honestly, and the overall land feature. Not so much, I don't think that those strict guidance issues really apply to what we have in Marshfield. And when people are putting together the expense to build a new house or elevate an existing house and put a compliant foundation in there, that they should be afforded some sort of, ability to have privacy, make sure that their stuff doesn't get stolen from underneath their house, and also do it in a way that's responsible and compliant with the FEMA and guidelines and the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner comments? Corey?
Yes, Andrew is correct. FEMA requirements only require 1 inch per 1 square foot of space for flood vents. So this is compliant with that. I would say that the amount of space between each piece, you say 3/4 inch?
I spoke of 1 inch.
Okay, 1 inch, so it should be 1 inch, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I think I said that.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sorry if I didn't say
Oh,
that.
sorry,
That's-
it's okay. It just
It was
in-
written as 3/4, so, in the document that we have, so.
Okay, that was a mistake then, and I have it as 1 inch, yes.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that.
Nope, not your fault. That's misprint here.
So that being said, the walls going all the way to the ground can potentially create channelization around the skirt and create scour and redirect flow to other parts of the property or to your neighbor's property. So there should be some space to allow that water to either flow through or not get channeled. So I agree that there is guidance from CZM, but it's
Guidance.
It's guidance, it's not
Yeah,
policy.
it does not have legal teeth.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And, if we don't have a bylaw that says this is not allowed. then-
Right. No, we do not. What sort of spacing would you favor at the bottom to prevent channelization?
What's the elevation of the house? What's the elevation of the flood zone there?
It's an AO, I don't,
3, okay.
AO3.
So
in a 1% flood, there'll be
3 feet.
overwash waves coming across the property.
Okay. So in a perfect world, it would be 3 feet off the ground, right? But that's not what you want. So, I guess we could have some sort of in-between, and I'm not exactly sure what you would accept as
like myself, I was thinking, if you were to walk around the neighborhood, there's paneled fences that go straight into the ground, and they're everywhere. And I was thinking, 6 inches to a foot would I think get to what you need it to get to. And when you're talking about the lattice, I think it suggests 2 feet, which just seems a little bit much. But I guess in my mind, 6 inches to a foot would be reasonable. 6 inches I'd love. I think that
Yeah,
gives
I
clearance
would-
for water to go underneath, and
We-
I've been there for a very, very long time, and I can honestly say, I have seen water run down the street. I have never seen water go underneath the house, but I have seen it run down the street.
Yeah. Well, I would support the design as it currently is, if it was, just a little bit higher off the ground, just to allow the free flow of
So
sediments and water.
could I ask the building inspector what he would propose for a fair, or,
He's pretty much already kicked it to us.
I think, yeah, I
Okay.
think does anyone else like to chime in here?
Well, I'm trying to recall, we've permitted a number of fences over the years in similar areas, and I think usually we've asked for 6 inches. is your concern about the elevation off the ground or the lattice as opposed to the vertical boards?
I've seen lattice, again, if any of you were to walk down the street, I've seen lattice, and people take and they put plywood behind it because the lattice bends, and it just doesn't look as good. If you were to put 1 or 2 feet, if you put 2 feet, it just doesn't, it looks really, really awkward. Andrew mentioned about the privacy, and it just kind of finishes the house. It just puts that last look so that people can look at that house and say, it looks good. I've just invested a lot of time and a lot of money, and I want it to look good. I want it to fit within the neighborhood, and I want it to meet your standards.
Couple.
Okay, this gentleman?
Hi,
Hi.
Jim Boynton, a home builder from Situate with a project underway in Marshfield now, and 2 more slated for 25 and 26. The gentleman just mentioned people putting lattice behind, plywood behind the lattice to make keep the lattice from sagging down. AZEK has no memory. If you shoot a piece of AZEK on with 6 finish nails over 3 courses of banding, and we get any pressure from the backside in the sand, it's going to release. It's not going to hold. So nothing like the plywood behind the lattice is going to contain the soil or the water or the rocks flowing through, number one. Number two, I think that, I would recommend, and my thoughts are not exactly what's written in the rule book. I mean, FEMA since 2016 has spent all this time trying to put people into the floodplain to cover up, to collect money from the 2016 Houston floods. And I don't think that we should be we should be more aggressive than FEMA has been since 2016, restricting people's elevations and requirements below grade. The only reason, in my opinion, is that we have millions of homes across America now in the floodplain that weren't before, is to collect fees to keep the program afloat.
Thank you.
My name is Paul Armstrong. I've been a builder in Marshfield for over 40 years and also South Shore pile driving. I work from Boston to Provincetown to Westport, the entire coast, and I work on these projects all the time. The original design of slats has been the proven, enclosure of these foundations, open pile foundations, whether it's wood, concrete, whatever the subject may be or the home may have. I work down where there's really, truly barrier beaches and coastal dunes and so on. I do a ton of work in Sandwich, Barnstable. These areas are, very undeveloped barrier beaches where Marshfield has seawalls everywhere and developed, and I get it. The functions of what they're doing is commendable by elevating the homes and doing it properly. Restricting it with lattice and so on, it's not going to harm or do any difference at all. I'm just being honest with you. You look at the days when they used to use the snow fence. Snow fence is a vertical board. They used to put snow fences down all the beaches for years and years, and it's a vertical board. It's no different than what he's proposing for his enclosure. Water's taken its own level course. We don't have the, and believe me, I've been through the blizzard of '78. I've known Bert my whole life. And seriously, we've been around and seen all this stuff happen. 6 inches is probably that's plenty. The water's going to flow underneath it, and those boards and it's going to go right through it. I've seen it. I've been there for decades watching this. And to restrict somebody, by letting them go 2 feet up, I just think it's uncalled for. I think they've done more than their share of complying with the regulations and so on, and just to give another burden of doing something like that, I just don't think it's necessary. And I see how the dunes function down the Cape and so on. The sand does go around it, the water flows around it, and water takes its own course. But the lattice is not the product I would use. The boards is the way to go. And again, I've never seen any detriment or failure because of it. And like I say, it's more of a protectant, keeping animals and people from taking your stuff onto your house and so on. And aesthetically, it looks good. Imagine looking at our brand-new Harbor Master building with nothing underneath it, you know? It would look ridiculous. And it's the truth, so.
Okay,
Just take that into consideration.
thank you. Any other commissioner comment?
No.
Well, I am comfortable with the AZAC, 6 inches, 1 inch spacing, 6 inches off the ground. Does anyone object to that?
I think that's
don't think
pretty
so.
close to what you said, Corey.
Yeah.
In that case, I move to approve.
Did you say, Jessica?
No, I just said based on the bylaws now and the fact that
Right.
those are guidelines.
Right, and, excuse me, I move to approve your AZAC boards, 6 inches wide, 1 inch spacing, 6 inches off the ground. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
You are welcome. Thank you. Enjoy the house.
Thank you. Craig, if I may.
Yes.
We've had a few comments from the chat asking commissioners to speak directly into the microphones. Apparently, there's some issues with the volume
So
tonight.
before Andrew leaves, should we, is this going to be the new standard or the new guidance that you wanted, in your notes, wanted something to be able to tell future homeowners? Is this,
Obviously, the commission conditions every project that comes before them. So what I would ask is that, and on any elevated house, especially in a barrier beach or coastal dune, that you address this and make it part of your discussion so that the builder knows going forward exactly what they're going to be allowed to do underneath the elevated home. And if this is something that the current commission is comfortable with, allowing me to give guidance to designers and builders when they come, because one thing that's great about Marshfield is they know that my door is open and they come in and they ask me questions all the time about what they should be doing. And this is one of the biggest questions I get. So if the commission is comfortable using this as a guiding principle, that I could give guidance to local builders and designers on this, I'd be happy to do that. And I'm completely comfortable. I think it meets all FEMA regulations and building code regulations.
I think we can work with this, but I also think that the commission needs to, whether it's in our policy and procedure manual, or whether we actually put it in the bylaw to be specific, we need to make a change here.
And like I
But
said.
as a working plan, yeah.
Right, and every property is different, obviously, right? And so you're gonna have properties where you don't think it's appropriate for them to have anything underneath the house, based on if it's in a very exposed area, V-zone, something like that. And that's, I completely understand and agree with, and we have regulations about those types of things where there are free of obstruction requirements. So, like I said, it's ultimately up to the conditions of an order of conditions and your approval. But it's been very difficult for me to provide guidance when they come in. So I appreciate this discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so going forward as a working plan, this is something we are okay with, but we will make changes officially to make that plain.
All right. Thank you so much.
all right, thank you.
Okay, review and approval of conservation meeting dates. Going forward, we will continue to meet on the first and third Wednesday of every month, with one exception, which is on the agenda separately, but since it's the same topic, Wednesday, June 19th is Juneteenth, which is an official holiday and town hall is closed. So that meeting will take place on Thursday, June 20th. Okay. Do we need a vote on these?
Yes, to approve them.
Okay, so I move that we accept the meeting dates and deadlines from July 3rd to December 18th, with one exception, and that is changing the June, oh, okay, June is not on here, but,
That's the 6th business.
yeah,
item.
so we'll just approve July 3rd through December 18th, first and third Mondays of every month. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That
And-
was item D6.
Yeah.
The June, yeah.
I'm just going to go to that now since it's the same thing. So I move that we change the date of the Wednesday, June 19th commission meeting to Thursday, June 20th, to accommodate the fact that it is Juneteenth and Town Hall is closed. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Review and approval of the updated Wetland Protection Act forms. I want to thank Liz and Katie for doing the work on these. Much appreciate it. It looks like we should be in compliance now. DEP pointed out that we were using old forms, and nothing is terribly different. Mike, did you have any comments, or?
No comments. I could go through the actual changes here that are listed on the screen if you'd like me to. But yeah, every form was updated to the most current form, and the bylaw was also put on the top of those forms as well to line up with what we currently do.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think we need to delineate everything. It's pretty straightforward and had to be done. So, once again, thank you, Liz. I move that we vote to accept the updated forms for WPA Form 1, Request for Determination of Applicability, WPA Form 2, Determination of Applicability, WPA Form 3, Notice of Intent, and WPA Form 5, Orders of Conditions. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and last business item is Beach Street Extension Moby Mat grading. And I see Cindy Castro here.
Hi. So I'm just
Hello.
trying to get permission. The pathway's become very windblown. The sand is almost bellied up like this, so I'm looking for permission to just use a bobcat from the edge of the parking lot out to about where that blue line meets, and just to flatten out that area so we can put a Moby mat down. And what we'll do is the same thing we have for Wrexham over the winter, and that's get a maintenance permit, so that we'll be able to when we need to.
Do it on a
Right,
continuing
there'll be
basis.
no sand removed from the beach, it won't be piled anywhere, it will just be graded down right into that area.
Any comments from Mike?
Yes, this area is outside the NHESP area, Natural Heritage Endangered Species. So there wouldn't be any conflicts with the plovers in this area, or a time of year constraints according to the state's mapped NHESP area.
Commissioner comments?
I just have one. This is your existing path, so there's no
Correct.
vegetation, right? This is
No.
just sand that's...
No, it's just sand that's kind of pushed up
Migrate.
on each side, that's all.
All right, that seems very reasonable. I move to approve.
Craig, can I just ask?
I'm sorry, Go ahead.
This is kind of not related, but kind of related. So, you see all those little pathways through the dune?
Mm-hmm.
Has there ever been any thought of maybe closing them off or doing something
Yes.
to reduce the traffic or focus traffic to the approved pathway? To limit the,
That property is in land court, as to who owns it.
Oh,
So
okay.
Until it's determined who actually owns it, we're no longer allowed. We used to have snow fence out around that outer edge, going all the way back towards the beginning of the street, and we're no longer allowed to do that.
Okay.
Okay. But yes, we used to catch sand in it. We used to put that back on the dune itself in the fall, and plant beach grass there. But unfortunately, we can't do that right now.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good information.
Yeah.
Okay, I move to approve grading at the Beach Street entrance so that Moby mats can be placed for accessibility. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that concludes our business. We now go to our hearings. The first of which is 97 Foster Ave. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Clive, I'm sorry. And the hearing officer is Commissioner O'Donnell.
Okay, thank you. Sure. Michael, I guess butter notification were not applicable, but were the taxes confirmed?
Yes, the taxes
Are
were
now confirmed. Okay.
confirmed.
Is there anyone here to speak to this project? In person, on internet? Nope.
Liz, I believe you wanted to.
You can do it if you want me to.
Okay, I didn't know if the owner was there or someone talked about the project.
gonna be able to make it.
Okay, so I don't, either Liz or Mike, do you want to speak to it, or?
Yep, Liz.
Sure. Yeah, so they're just gonna replace a 23 by 24, not deck, it's the balcony with a 9 by 13 balcony. And I believe he told me when he was in the office, he's gonna use 3 diamond piers, but Andrew's note said 2, so I wanted confirmation on that, but I believe it was 3. His, site plan also said that they were gonna use sonotubes, but he told me he was gonna use helical piles. There was a stop work order by Andrew, but it has been lifted because he spoke to the homeowner and it's not a substantial improvement. And they have an active floodplain permit as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I went out to visit the property, and there was a stop work order last week, which has since been lifted. And you're right, our notes show 3 diamond pier footings, and Andrew's notes said 2, but Andrew's dealing with the builder with the actual building permit and plans. It is a barrier beach, coastal dune, land subject to coastal flooding, so the diamond pier footings meet those requirements. It's a smaller deck. The property has an active floodplain permit, and it's essentially an in-kind but smaller deck replacement. So in terms of my visit, Andrew's notes, talking to Mike about the project, I think meets all the requirements that we have. Anybody have any questions or comments on the commission? It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so the area is subject to Wetlands Protection Act, but the activity will not disturb or alter the area. So I am going to suggest that wait a minute, you have any special conditions, Mike, for this project?
Yes, I would suggest the following on the cover letter. Ensure best management practices are followed before commencing the work, obtain all pertinent permits, and to see the conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits beyond the work approved for this project.
Okay. So I make a motion that we issue a DOA with a +5 and a -2. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all set?
Okay. Next up is 10 Idaho Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Judith Meredith and Peter Ryder of 10 Idaho Street. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Miles.
Okay. Michael, just confirming that taxes and fees have been paid?
Yes, taxes have been paid, all administrative requirements have been met.
Okay. Well, I went up to the property earlier and saw the area that is proposed for the ramp. It's in a buffer zone to salt marsh, and I believe the applicant is here. Do you want to say anything about the project? Explain it?
Peter Ryder, my wife Judy and I live there. She's 85, I'm 75. We're looking to live in here longer, but ramp is really be helpful in terms of accessibility. My wife was hospitalized this summer. I had to rent a ramp for 4 months and $600 a month or whatever it is. So we look into the future saying I think we'd be prudent to get a ramp in there. And I think it's with the piles and all, it's done in the least invasive way we could come up with.
Okay. Are there any comments from the public? Any comments from commissioners? Okay. I move to issue a determination of applicability with a +5 and a -3. Oh, there you are.
I'm here. I can talk for Mike.
Okay.
Yeah, Liz, I believe you were gonna cover this one?
Yeah, they were just talking. So Mike suggested some special conditions for the cover page as usual. The best management practices are followed. Before commencing the work, obtain all subsequent permits, and seize conservation administrator and agent for guidance on conservation permits or work beyond the approved work activities. So our standard conditions for that one.
Yep. I can read those again in case it wasn't clear over the TV.
I don't know. Did everybody hear that?
I couldn't hear you.
Oh, I can read them again in case the volume on the TV was too quiet for people in the room.
I think we're good.
Okay.
All right. Move to issue a determination of applicability with a +5 and a -3. Can I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you get to live there a long time.
We're gonna try.
Okay, next up is 7 Branch Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by John Brown for 7 Branch Street, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Platt.
All right. Mike, have taxes administrative?
Yes, taxes and all administrative requirements have been met.
Okay, great. Okay, so I went out to this site and checked it out. This is a property that's within land subject to coastal storm flowage, zone AE12. And I believe, are you here to present the work? Are you, oh, I'm sorry. I went out, I thought it was you, but it's not.
over because it's really hard to hear that. And I just
That's okay.
clear it out.
All right, so is there anyone on Zoom here to present this? Okay, I can, but if you want to, Mike.
I can present.
Sure.
So the homeowner here is proposing to replace a small landing at their front door with a longer, almost porch type deck there that measures 4 feet by 24 feet and has 2 stairs associated with it. It's currently over a pre-existing gardened type areas you can see in the pictures. And diamond pier footings are proposed here as well. Interestingly, I will say that when I searched this property, it did register in the complaint folder, and while looking at the complaint about the fencing around the perimeter of the home and the pergola type structure on top of the fencing, I did notice that a patio went into this property in 2021, and it does not have a permit. These spaces between the pavers, as you can see here, have a lot of vegetation growing through it. It's possible that it is a pervious structure, but it's also possible that that small patio area could be encompassed into the determination of applicability.
Okay, yeah, and when I was out at the property and did speak with the homeowners, I did not go and actually look at the patio, but they had confirmed that it was pervious. From what it looks like, I'm assuming it is, but, so if we amended the request, how would that work? Would we, is it just an amendment to, I've just never heard of that.
Yeah, while issuing the determination of applicability, we could also include the rough area of the patio, and add that onto the permit. I'm not sure if this is something the applicant would want to do, especially where the applicant is not present. It could be best to inquire from them and perhaps make amendments to the request for determination of applicability to encompass that.
Okay. Do you have,
you ever seen an RDA get amended?
Oh.
Liz, have you ever encountered an RDA where we found unpermitted?
It's usually notice of intent that this happens with.
Yeah, that's the only time I've ever encountered it.
I mean, I don't see why not. I don't see why you couldn't continue it to talk to the homeowner again and include the patio.
I'm here.
Oh.
No, the
If you'd
homeowners.
like to ask
Oh.
me any questions.
John, are you the homeowner, John Brown?
I am.
Hi. You can
Hello.
speak.
He might not be able to hear you if you
Oh,
mind
really?
speaking into the microphone.
That patio, Mike, is that stone dust or is it?
Those are paver blocks.
They're
They're
pavers on
roughly
top of
about a
sand
foot
and
by foot
stone.
pavers, or stone, but impervious.
I think he
They're
just said
half-inch spacers. It is sand underneath, and it is, water does move through it. It's not a concrete board foundation for the pavers.
Okay. So you're saying they are pervious?
Yeah, I just don't know how to procedurally.
Understood, yeah.
I think this wasn't captured by the legal ad or the agenda, the addition of the patio. It could be best to refile the RDA, or at least make amendments to that form,
Or
and then hear it next meeting.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
You approve the deck that he's here for, and then come back for an after-the-fact RDA for the unpermitted items.
Agreed.
That could work.
Any other comments from commissioners? Does that sound like a good plan? Okay. All right. Okay, so I move to close the hearing and issue the determination of applicability for the landing repair and expansion of the deck with a +5 and -2. Any other conditions, Mike?
Yes, I would suggest the following on the cover letter: ensure best management practices are followed before commencing the work, obtain all pertinent permits, and to see the conservation administrator or agent for guidance on conservation permits for work beyond the proposed work activities.
Okay. All right. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. 11 Stage Lane. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, to consider the request for determination of applicability for 11 Stage Lane, and the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Mike, can you confirm administrative requirements?
Yes, administrative requirements have been met.
Thank you. Is there somebody here from Stage Lane? Come on up. Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Arian Byer, although I go by my middle name, Alin. It's all on my paper. How are you? 11 Stage Lane.
So do you just want to describe your project?
Sure. So what I'd like to do is take these two dirt driveways. So this property was built in 1938 and has been owned by the Goodwin family until Nancy Goodwin passed 2 years ago. And this particular piece of their compound, if you will, was sold to me privately. So the property's not had a lot of updates done to it over the years. It was filled with 1970s carpeting and everything. So the driveways now are dirt, and it just creates a lot of dirt coming into the house. And the stone, well, in the front of the property, it's all brick that's wobbly and not really safe to walk around. So my hope would be that we could lightly grade each of those areas where the driveways are, and just add gravel and put a continuation of gravel or stone across the front as well. So it would just make it look a lot nicer, be easier for cars to come in and out, and stop the spreading of dirt everywhere. It also, when it rains, I don't get flooding there, but the driveway tends to puddle a lot. So the goal would be, through speaking with Mike, to put down something that is pervious so that we don't create a bigger mess. In the back of the property, there was a brick pathway that weaved through the back because it used to connect the other properties that are a part of this family compound that has been owned. And where you see those divots sort of in that L shape, those were all cinder blocks, which actually were then filled at some point to create, I guess, an upper level lawn. So it's very uneven and wonky back there, and the goal would be to just take that heightened L shape and just try and bring it back down to the grade, which you see closer to that bottom step right there, just to make it so that the backyard is a little less all over the place. And keeping in mind that because we are in a floodplain, that we're keeping within the restrictions of the town and in compliance with what it is that we can do to make this backyard a little more usable, I guess.
Good, thank you. Mike, your comments?
Yes.
And I have a big dog, so he wants to run in the backyard.
So, as Ms. Byers indicated, the work would The work would include putting crushed stone in the existing driveways. The brick patio in the front of the home would be replaced by gravel and stepping stones, something in the form of like a slate stone or
Yeah, something that's kind of
yeah.
irregular and just with a lot of space around it for
Yes.
water drainage.
And then the old walkways and areas where the cinder blocks were removed in the backyard should be essentially following the natural grades of the property. It's just kind of leveling out this area where somebody at some point put in topsoil in an L shape back here. And then also included would be the fences that were installed, these white vinyl fences around the property.
Yeah, I put that fence in last year to keep my dog in and safe. So I just want to work within that parameter.
Okay, good. And I saw you had a floodplain permit, so the building inspector has reviewed the fences and all that. So that's good. It sounds like you just want to, it's pretty level property anyway, you just want to level it off a little more.
Yes, exactly.
Add some gravel, so.
Yes.
I'd like to open it up to other commissioners. Any comments? Anybody in the public wish to comment on this? It all sounds good to me. I'd like to make a motion for a +5 and a -2.
Thank you very much.
Did I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Now
I
you're good to
appreciate your
go.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for your help.
Thank you.
Okay, Winslow Avenue Extension. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by the Town of Marshfield. And the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. So town property,
Yes.
has notice been made? That's maybe the only requirement, right?
Notice has not been made that I am aware of. I did ask the town administrator to let me know when this sort of notice for the abutters to remove structures off of the paper road off of Winslow Ave, otherwise known as Winslow Ave Extension. As you can see here, at one point, a white picket fence has went in within the layout of the road, as well as some other fencing down by the existing tennis court there. The town wishes to widen this path from about 6 feet. It's currently about a 6 to 8 foot path to a 10-foot wide path. They would do this to be able to maintain the road better. It currently faces a lot of erosion issues down there, and being able to get a small piece of machinery in to do some regular maintenance would be beneficial there. When doing the clearing, I met with the DPW on site and indicated that no eastern red cedar should be cut, just overhanging branches, small diameter saplings, and then any other brush growing kind of over that 10-foot wide pathway. And it should it'll be regraded to become closer to ADA accessible slope, and will be and reclaimed asphalt will be used, which matches the material currently on the path.
So is that pretty accurate, what's indicated? The widening is going to take place in the area that's been encroached on, and that tree line that's there now is going to be maintained?
Yes. Yeah, it would be roughly maintained, just the brush will be widened to accommodate for the 10-foot wide path. Currently, it's 6 to 8 feet wide, depending on the path, the exact measurement of where you are in the path. But yes, no eastern red cedars would be cut, and a minimal amount of vegetation would be cut. It would be mostly pruning and trimming.
I have a question. Before we allow, I just think a boundary line survey is probably prudent on before we remove some fencing and structures that might be on town property, might not be on town property. I know that house is being reconstructed right now.
Those structures are definitely on town property. They have a license for those structures to be within the easement of the road.
do, okay.
And the town is considering revoking that license.
Okay.
The only issue is that there's a new owner, so the license is now naming the previous owners. So there's a little bit of legal aspects that need to be figured out behind that. But yes, those structures are within the layout of the road.
So town engineer will be covering that, correct?
Yes, I believe the area has been surveyed as part of the court processes in the past, but I would have to confirm that with Michael Maresco.
And that, I'm sure that was surveyed, that boundary was probably confirmed when that house was torn down.
Yeah, I know that
Probably
that
staked or-
that parcel did have boundary stakes on it when I was out on the property.
This area has had a ton of scrutiny. That's
I'm aware of
originally,
that.
okay, you know,
Yeah.
so.
So just to be clear, okay, that the protrusions into the path now are under a license. They were licensed in 1996.
They were licensed. The homeowners or the individuals that they were licensed to no longer own the property.
Okay, so is the plan to remove that fence?
Yes.
Okay.
The fences that are within the layout
That are
of the
within the
road.
layout are
Yep.
coming out? Okay.
Yes.
I do have another question as well. I walk this path pretty frequently. The path was regraded maybe a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they filled in some areas with heavy erosion as part of the path maintenance.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did we know what's causing the erosion to occur?
It's runoff from.
Yeah, it's runoff from these structures that, like some of, there's a few drain pipes and just runoff from the structures on this side of the path here, as I'll highlight with my cursor, that just go straight across the path or straight down the path and create erosion.
It happened like January and February rainfall, like the heavy rainfall events. That's where I saw it. I saw it soon after the erosion was pretty severe for a while.
I mean, is there anything that we can do to prevent future erosion?
With the additional width, maybe they could do something to create a
that-
berm or something, so.
I thought I read that they were trying to.
Yeah, I
round the
did.
road
I
a
did
little
speak
bit.
with an individual, Wayne. I don't know his last name, but he works with the DPW and
Oh, Wayne
frequently
Wilkes.
frequently does grading. And he indicated that he could kind of create a bit of a shape to the path so that water wouldn't run straight down it or across it.
And I think those discharges that some of have caused that have
Yeah, I do too.
since been removed or are
Yeah,
being removed. As
they did
part of-
remove a stormwater pipe that was kind of leading directly to the path, and that has been taken out by the DPW since.
Oh, okay.
One thing I was wondering that some of you might want to comment on, using the reprocessed asphalt, is that an acceptable thing in that area?
I would think gravel. I mean, if a homeowner came, we probably would not.
We wouldn't allow,
Right.
yeah, I mean, that's what's there already, but
I mean, I've
Should
used
we
a
add
lot
to
of
it?
what they call dense pack lately.
Yep.
And that makes a pretty good surface.
Yes.
yeah, I used to have a driveway, a lane of dense grade. I would certainly agree that if there was a better material than reclaimed asphalt, that would be preferable.
But particularly down at the wetland area.
Yeah,
The bridge.
It gets closer.
Yeah.
yeah.
Could you run that by them, Mike, and see if that's acceptable?
I can run that by
That
them.
would be our preference.
Yeah.
If you all agree on that.
Yeah, I do. Ready?
Okay. I will, I can add, to the conditions, that pervious material, such as gravel would be, preferable to, sorry, that gravel would be preferable, or dense grade would be preferable than reclaimed asphalt.
Works for me.
Yep.
That it for commissioners? Like to open it up to the public. Any comments on this? I don't see any. I'd like to make a motion to, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Issue a +5 and a -3. Have I got a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm always doing notice of intent, so. Thank you.
Okay. 24 Ninth Road. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, to consider the request for determination of applicability for 24 Ninth Road, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Platt.
Okay, thank you. Mike, can you confirm that all administrative requirements have been met?
Yes, all administrative requirements, including taxes, have been met.
Okay, great. Okay, this property is in a barrier beach, coastal dune, land subject to coastal storm flowage, A03, zone A03. Is there anyone in the audience or on Zoom here to present this?
Yes, I am Deborah Green, and I'm the owner. And my cousin Jeff Howard is also here, and he's going to do the speaking for me. He knows what's going on.
Thank you. Yeah, so the request here, there was a deck on the back of the house, ground level deck that was built in 1992. The current deck is actually slightly shorter front to back than what was originally permitted. As you can see, it's 19.5 versus 20.5, which is what was permitted. The request is simply to replace the deck in kind, in its exact same footprint that you see here. Again, it's a ground level deck. There are carrier beams underneath it, but we were not able to adequately see what kind of footings are in place there. So whatever footings are required, and as I looked at this, I think we're going to need 4 diamond piers per carrier beam, not 3 as was depicted in this draft diagram, but whatever is required there. 4 footings will be diamond piers. Again, 2x8 pressure treated. We're going to use Fiberon, AZEK-like, PVC decking for the surface. But again, exact same height, exact same layout and footprint as does currently exist. The only minor variation to what's there currently is, if you look on the kind of the upper left-hand corner, there's going to be 2 sections of railing, as you can see there. Currently, there's no railing on the left-hand side of this diagram, and there's just a built-in bench along where the back railing is currently showing. So happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thank you. And I believe on the notes, it's going to be, the deck will be supported by 6 diamond pier footings. Is that correct?
Yes, that's what's on the project site plan here.
Right.
Ground level deck.
And as I mentioned, if that needs to be 4 diamond piers, I was reviewing the specs, and we may need to put 4 diamond piers per carrier beam, but whatever it is that Mr. Stewart requires will be accommodated.
Okay, Mike, do you have any comments?
Yes. From satellite imagery, or on the site visit, we did notice some structures in the dune area. Via satellite imagery, I was able to determine that a fire pit and garden appear on the property in 2021, and that a prefabricated plastic shed existed on the property in 2020. These are within the dune environment in the backyard, as noted in the site visit pictures. The direct abutter on this side has conservation markers protecting that dune. There is a plethora of beach grass and native species within that area. It could be beneficial to condition the removal of these structures as part of this permit, whether the permit is contingent on those structures being removed or tabling it until the structures are removed. But
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, any comments? Anyone on Zoom or in the audience that has any comments on this? Okay. It's, from what I saw, so the deck is going to be a one-to-one, it's gonna be the same deck being built. I believe, I don't know what the clearance is right now on that deck. It looks to be maybe 6 inches off the ground. I'm not positive on that.
Yeah.
And normally the standard would be 2 feet, to allow dune material, sediment, and water to move through that. But obviously, the way that it's built with the way that, going out to that deck, you would have, if that deck was built 2 feet above, you'd be going up from your home. And this is similar to a property near, up the street from you guys as well, I believe, that has a similar situation with a deck with less than 2-foot clearance. So in my opinion, to keep this one-to-one, it would be beneficial to remove those structures in the dune area. That would be what I would prefer before we move forward with permitting this deck.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
So I hear what you're saying about the shed, because obviously that creates an impervious, is that the proper term, surface. Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the fire pit is just a ring that is built directly on the sand. There is no solid surface underneath that. Do I recall that correctly? So there's no impact on drainage through that area.
if I may, Commissioner Platt.
Yes.
The purpose of those, the markers on the neighboring property is to keep people out of the functioning dune environment. So having a fire pit and bringing people into the functioning dune wouldn't necessarily, yes, sorry. But yeah, wouldn't necessarily line up consistently with what's been going on in that neighborhood.
And then also the neighboring property, I believe, has conservation markers.
They do. They do have 3 conservation markers next door protecting that dune.
Okay. So I think, that would be something else to consider on this property as well. Any comments?
I think conservation markers would be appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if removing I understand what you're saying about the fire pit being pervious and water being able to move through there, but just keeping people out of that area, I think is a concern. So, all right.
Keeping people out of our backyard?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking about keeping people out of our backyard?
Off of the
You don't want people in the...
Off of the dune area in the backyard, yes. Constant traffic. I mean, if that's not,
I have a general question.
It is,
In the past, obviously, there has been conservation markers put at the adjacent property. Has like the values of this dune in this area in general, I think it was kind of discussed earlier, and the building commissioner, kind of like the built environment of this area, like, although it is a dune, kind of the values of that dune, is it beneficial to do that? Do you want to speak on that?
Yeah,
I'm just curious on.
Jesse, if you don't mind.
yeah, sure.
So previously, the commission did choose to protect that area adjacent. This Barrier Beach coastal dune environment is behind a seawall. There's a seawall separating this neighborhood from the coastal beach. I will say that, and in Rebecca's guidance, they're a little bit more lenient with the lattice type structures in that environment. However, the commission did choose to protect the coastal dune on the adjacent parcel. So hopefully that gives you some more information to work from.
It does. My only comment, and I guess the structure, the shed, I agree with you, Mike. It's just if you look at this at kind of like at a micro level, it's a dune. But if you kind of zoom out a little bit and you look at the values of that dune and what's actually...
What its function is currently?
Yeah. I mean, it's behind a seawall. It's developed entirely around it. You know what I mean?
Actually, I'm trying to remember exactly where this is. Mr. Howard, is your property abutting this?
Yeah, ours is the light gray property that you see in the middle of the picture behind it.
Okay.
Yeah, so you redid your deck several years ago, and it was kind of a similar thing that you've got kind of natural dune around it, correct?
Yes, yeah, exactly. And actually, the house to the left, upper left corner of the picture is another member of the extended family, and all of these yards have kind of grown in gradually, and I know nobody has done anything to try and disturb, the natural growth, but it just seems to be an extreme position to say we can't walk in the yard. Forgive me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say you've done a better job of maintaining the dune than anybody else around. It's one of the few places there's some actual dune left.
Exactly, that's what I noticed.
That's what
well, the property that we're talking about, that yard, that was all sand until about 6 or 7 years ago, and then all of a sudden there was seagrass everywhere. But before that, it was like the way Jeff's backyard is. It was all sand.
That's a good thing.
I would mention.
That's what we want to see.
But
No, I would like to see it. If,
May I just offer a comment?
the property next door has markers next to my property because they were removing the dune grass, and I believe you stopped them from doing it and posted those, the posts in there. They were removing all the grass.
Go ahead. So it is in an AO zone, which means it's subject to overwash. And when overwash occurs, it does exchange sediment with the beach. So it is a functioning dune. Even though it's behind a seawall, it does sometimes exchange sediment with the beach.
So Debbie, that your dad's had that cottage since the 60s, I believe. Our cottage has been in the family since 1930 or 31. And there's only been one time that water has underflowed our property, but then again, our property is below the level of 10th Road. There's only been one time when water underflowed the house. And on Ninth Road, the Ninth Road itself is well below, at least a foot or so below the level of the yard and the deck that we're currently talking about replacing. This house is 4 houses down from Mr. Bonacia's house that we were discussing previously, and there are retaining walls and other structures between. In addition to the seawall, there's also a retaining wall and other structures that really realistically prevent any kind of inflow into this particular parcel of land that we're discussing.
Also, when there is water over the seawall, it flows down the middle of the street. It has never come into our yard.
Yeah, the elevation of this lot that we're looking at here in the picture is easily 2 feet or more above the level of the deck that's in my backyard directly behind this. And with that, I will stop talking.
Well, the deck, I don't have a problem with the deck.
No.
So, we can move forward, I think, to vote on the deck. I guess my concern is just the structures in the dune, and I still feel.
Is there a place you could move the shed to that is closer to the house?
I could.
Debbie, I think, that if we need to, if we need to remove the shed until such time as perhaps we can get that re-permitted, my concern is that deck is really at the point of being unsafe. Yes. And if there's a way that the committee would, allow us to proceed, or perhaps give us a permit conditional on, removing that shed by this weekend, subject to your verification, I would really request that we would be given that leeway so that we can get the project, underway. Again, this is being done as a family project, just as my deck on 21 10th Road was being done. We're not hiring a contractor who can come in 2 days and knock the thing out. So we are going to need, more time to do this and do it in accordance with the, with professional workmanship and the town's guidance. But certainly we can go in and remove that shed by this, by the end of this weekend, if the town would allow us to get permitted on that basis somehow, so we don't have to, come back and, and lose another 2 weeks in our time frame by having to come back and make another appeal after the shed is removed. So I just request if there's some way of giving some consideration to that, it certainly would be appreciated.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move forward then, and I'm gonna close the hearing and vote to issue the determination of applicability with a +5 and -2, with the condition to have the shed removed. And Mike, are there any other conditions that you want to add to that?
Yes. Ensure best management practices are followed before commencing the work. Obtain all pertinent permits. The shed should be removed by what was it, Monday? Giving the weekend to remove the shed. So Monday the 20th.
Okay, and I'm sorry, was there any other comments before I close this? Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Very much.
Okay, 8 Water Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. A public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, to consider the notice of intent filed for 8 Water Street, and the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Michael, we're all set?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's
Oh, I thought I got a
Commissioner
promotion.
O'Donnell.
Better be John, because I haven't looked at this one.
Sorry.
Battlefield promotion there somewhere. All right, Michael, are we all set with taxes and?
Yes, taxes, fees, butters, and DEP number have been met. The DEP number is SE 42 3084.
Okay, and I see we have our presenter here. Good to see you, as always.
Good evening, same. Rick Savant, Rick Stenbeck and Taylor, representing the Griffins on this project. This is a residential deck project for the house. I'm sure you're aware, all familiar with this area on Bluefish Cove, corner of A and Water Street. It does have some resource areas that we're dealing with. The buffer zone to the salt marsh, it's in a barrier beach. It's also in coastal land subject to flooding. What the applicant is proposing here is to reconstruct and build some new decks on the second floor of the structure. There are some existing decks there, not in the greatest of shape. They don't have good access and egress from the second story from these decks. They've been working hand in hand with Andrew at the building department. They do have a floodplain permit in process. It's active, I should say.
Yeah.
And working with us to design a deck that accomplishes what they're trying to do here. Improve their access and egress out of the second floor of the structure. So that's what we see here. This is a second-story deck. It's going to be on diamond piers. I counted 18 diamond piers.
It's a lot of.
Yeah, it's high and kind of rambles around and wraps around the whole structure.
Yeah, it touches all 4 sides of the house, basically. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does. I'm sure you saw the deck that's out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's neat stuff, yeah.
So this is what we come up with, and that's why we're here tonight. And I'll do my best to answer any other questions you might have.
Okay. Yeah, so I was out at the property. It took me a little while to get oriented in terms of Water Street and,
Yes.
You know, the schematics, the drawings were helpful in terms of what the future work was going to be. So I think, yeah, 18 diamond pier posts and footing. I think there was something like 6 right now supporting the deck, which is
Existing
mostly on one side.
Yeah.
They definitely need to be replaced. I did notice that the back, now the stairwell's going to be on the back. One of the stairwells will be on the back of the house, which is very close to the adjacent property. I think there's like 1 foot, about a foot or so of clearance, but that's you dealing with Andrew. That's beyond our purview. I also noticed that, I guess Andrew was saying that there's going to have to be some special permitting and variances from the zoning board, as well as maybe a lease agreement with the select board, because I think some of the work that's already in existence extends beyond the property line.
Yes.
And, you know, onto A Street, I guess it is, right? A Street? Water Street,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
And this is going to extend as well beyond the property line. so-
Yeah, they're going to match the existing encroachment.
Yeah.
that we're getting out of.
So, but I think as far as our job is, the deck is going to definitely be a great improvement, a huge improvement. The footings are going to be better than the footings for the existing deck. Just an awful lot of footings. And I also, in terms of the earlier discussion, there's no screening. There's nothing going to be underneath that deck, because there's actually a garage and access and egress on that ground floor. So there's nothing in the world of screening. So it all looked good to me, and it looks like there's still some work to do with Andrew and potentially other officers of the town because of the encroachment. So I was good to go. Any questions or comments from anybody in the audience or commissioners? No? Michael, any special conditions?
Yes, I would suggest the following. General conditions 1 through 18. Prior to construction, conditions 5 and 2. During construction, condition 11. After construction, condition 1. And as this is Barrier Beach Coastal Dune, the 2-foot clearance, which should be absolutely no issue with this project.
So if there are no other questions or comments, I'm going to move that we issue the orders of condition. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Excellent, thank you.
This is this is the first time I was ever out there, as a
I can
as a
see it
fascinating
further
area.
around. Yeah, it's not much of a street, a street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
it's
kind of,
confusing.
yeah,
And it beats the heck out of your car.
try surveying it.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it's a little worse.
They regraded that road not that long ago. and
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
going to be a
mess.
nice deck when it's done. I mean, you're going to have some beautiful, nice
It'll be a
views.
solid one. Everybody can come over.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Rick.
7
Rick.
Trounce Island. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, to consider the notice of intent filed by James Tarbox for 7 Trounce Island, and I am the hearing officer. Mike, can I confirm all administrative?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met, and the DEP number is SE 423083.
3083,
Yes.
okay. And you are here to present?
Yes, I am. Kevin Grady from Grady Consulting, representing the applicant for the notice of intent, Truance Island. The project is for the construction of a single-family house on the island. For just a point of reference, if you can switch to sheet 3 for a sec.
Yeah, if you
If
can
you
give
can't,
me a
that's
second,
fine.
I can probably find it, but
That's
I
fine.
just have that one,
There's, it's been 13 houses out here since 40s, 50s, etc. There's one that burned down several years ago. This house is proposed to replace that house that was out there previously. Not that it really impacts resource areas or anything, but just for reference. Wetlands resource areas were delineated by South River Environmental July of 2022. They consist of a coastal beach, riverfront area, and land subject to flooding. No work is proposed within any of those resource areas. The AE zone is elevation 14. It's located just down gradient of the proposed work, so no work is proposed in there. The majority of the proposed house is outside the 100-foot buffer zone of the coastal beach. It just clips the northerly corners of the structure. We tried to move the structure as far away from the resource area as we could. As you can see, there's some existing propane tanks. Of course, now you've got the wrong. You want to switch back to 1? I just wanted to show you the layout of the island. So we located the building as far as we could away from the resource area. There's propane tanks there. The island driveway is there. So this is the location that we decided to set the house. We're also before the North River Commission and received approval for that. The rotation of this house is to respect their scenic corridor. As you know, the rotation of the house is to minimize the river-facing width of the house, so we had to rotate it, and now it's facing to the northeast. So the house was designed to protect that and also to maximize setbacks to the resource areas and protect the wetlands, while also providing the owners views and et cetera, the things that they desire for their proposed house. The design proposes to maintain the 50-foot landscape and septic setback. The closest point of the work is 54 feet from the resource area, so we are beyond that, probably an average of 6 or 8 feet. The septic system is located over 75 feet from the beach. We tried doing test holes higher up on the island to move the system further away. Soils were not cooperative. The best soils were as you get closer, so this is where they actually cooperated. We do have Board of Health approval as well as North River approval. The impervious coverage within the 100-foot buffer zone is about 350 square feet. Again, it's just the clip the corners of the building. We are proposing silt sock erosion control, the down gradient part of the limit of the development. 12-inch silt sock will mitigate erosion and sedimentation during construction. It's plenty large enough to mitigate that for a single-family house lot of this size and the amount of earthwork that's to be done here. We're proposing a construction entrance that's well outside of the buffer zone, but we'll try to minimize any tracking and sediment on and off of the site. We've located a stockpile area in an existing clearing. This is pretty much the maintenance area for the island. It's been out there for a long time. So we've backed that outside of resource areas and buffer zones. Let's see. So I think that's the story. That's how we designed the lot, and we presented a narrative to try and protect the resource areas and the wetlands. So happy to take any questions.
Okay. Mike or Liz, do you have comments?
Yes. When I was out on this property, I didn't necessarily find a well-defined path on there. It was kind of areas where people had walked over some brush. I wasn't sure if you have like some dimensions of that path, but I didn't see it well locating the flags on the coastal beach over here. Also, it could be a good idea to put conservation markers on the proposed tree line, and if the commission had any concerns over erosion or any such matters, some mitigation plantings could be planted along the proposed tree line. But I think conservation markers.
There are conservation markers on the.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that in my presentation. It was written here, though. It's right on here.
Yeah, no, and they're on.
Yeah, they're on the site plan.
They're on the
Yeah,
plan. Okay. Your 350 feet of impervious in the 100-foot buffer, is that just where the house clips?
Just the roof, yeah, there's no patios. It's all impervious areas. I don't know if that's a patio in the gray there. I don't think it, of course, I don't have the, I calculated this 2 months ago, and
Okay.
I calculated any impervious, but I think it is just the roof.
But it's just that corner of the house?
Yeah.
That doesn't include the driveway or any potential walkways or?
Correct, that's all, any walkways or any additional steps or patios or anything are all up gradient of the buffer zone and outside of any resource areas.
Okay. And they are proposing a paved driveway?
Yes.
Okay.
They're gonna have to do some maneuvering to get in and out of that garage, so that'll be a stable surface, which will keep from rutting and.
Okay. The foundation drain, I notice in your notes, it's riprap energy dissipator or equivalent, I think, based on conservation agent or this. I'm just wondering what the impact of that might be.
So, I don't see the or equivalent, I don't recall writing that, but I believe it could be there, because we do write that.
Yeah,
So, basically, when the water runs out of any discharge pipe, it could scour. The riprap is basically an energy dissipator, which will disperse the water, level spreader, so that it doesn't scour right there. It gives it a chance to take that energy out of the water coming out of the pipe, hits the stones, breaks it up, and it will help from scour and erosion. So that's the idea behind the riprap there.
Okay.
It is pervious. It's just basically it's a pile of rocks.
Right, yeah. I'm going to open it up to questions, comments from other commissioners. While I look for something here.
The foundation drain, is that, how, does it say how deep in the ground it is?
Sure, there's a detail on sheet 1 on the profile. Basically, you set it at the footing of the structure, and you put crushed stone under the slab and around the footing. It basically guarantees that the water is not going to be able to jump up into the house.
Okay, outlet erosion control may be substituted upon approval of civil engineer or conservation agent. It's on sheet 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to handicap that.
Did the foundation drain need maintenance, ever?
No.
It's
One-
passive.
Correct.
What the equipment depot that exists there now that they use for maintaining the causeway and what all, will that remain where it is?
Yes. It's been there as long as I've been involved with this island, which is probably going on 15 years. And as you know, the causeway is subject to tidal action and needs continuous maintenance. So they need a staging area to do that. It's had no negative impacts to resource areas that I'm aware of at that time.
So the tree line that exists now, is that relatively where the proposed tree line is on this plan?
The existing tree line, let's see if I can.
Because like Mike said, I was trying to find the existing path when I went out there to orient myself.
Craig, I think the existing tree line is, you can see it around the propane tank.
Yeah, it's the larger, I usually do it in gray, not sure why this printed in
Black.
a
and
similar.
It's like a wider spread of the.
So the whole lot is wooded, but it's basically black, it's like black cherry that's not that, it's not that healthy, if you've been out there.
So here's what I don't want to happen. I don't want, the house to get built and then all of a sudden, that proposed tree line and the gap from there out to the beach is, oh, all those trees were dead, we took them down.
Sure.
So,
Maybe we could get a count on the trees that are, get a schedule that shows the number of trees there.
In the path?
In the
no,
on
in
property?
the wooded.
in the no touch zone beyond the conservation markers.
Wish I had a picture. There's a lot of black cherry, like, scrub trees that none of them are, they're all probably like this size, be kind of difficult to get in there and get a number. We can try.
Well, what I would like to see would be that area remaining largely untouched.
Yes, and that is the intent. There's no work to be done past the posts without permits. That's the intent of the plan. They do want to be able to access the beach.
Not much beach there, is there?
No, well, it's not like a barrier beach where you have, a vast sandy area, but you can go down to the beach and get some air and see some vistas, etc. You can traverse the perimeter of the island at low tide.
But the existing path is sufficient, they don't need to make it wider?
Correct.
They don't need to take vehicles down there?
No, nope, that's not the intent.
Except, I couldn't find an existing path. And you and Liz didn't.
Yeah, Liz and I didn't identify that existing path
So, I think maybe we should specify whatever path is going to be used can be 4 feet wide.
Just put a limited disturbance on this property. It looks like the existing path is a proposed tree line on both sides of the existing path.
But it's actually conservation markers is protecting all of that.
Right.
But if they want to maintain the path, we gotta have something written up about what it will, what that
Or we
means.
could meander a 4-foot path around the existing trees, no trees to be removed, something to that effect.
I think that's not what we're asking, right? We're saying no path, right? Whatever's existing is existing, but
If they want to get to the beach, fine. Because I couldn't find any path except what might have been a deer path or might have been, when John Zimmer was going in and out doing the flagging or something. I would like to say that any path they use needs to be as natural as
Okay.
possible. And if it can be done without removing any trees, they can walk around the trees, that's great.
Yep.
But, I don't want to see, a 20-foot opening appear.
Absolutely.
So we could make that a condition that egress to the beach.
Yeah, and we've got the conservation markers protecting it, so
Right.
if it does
Right.
become something more than what it is.
Then it will, be obvious that, okay. And I know you said you already rotated the house at the behest of the North River Commission. I'm assuming there's no way you could give it a little bit more of a tilt and get
I
inside
did
the
more
100
math on
foot.
that thing.
Yeah.
Back and forth with the architect and rotate it this way and that way. I probably have 10 concepts built into this drawing.
I have a question, Craig.
Go ahead.
I guess the slope coming off the green field into the proposed tree line are you gonna put is that just gonna be lawn or something?
The intent is to be lawn, yes.
You think that slope would
The steep,
is it too steep for
yeah,
lawn?
the steepest slope is 3-to-1, which is mowable, walkable, and it's definitely easily stabilized with vegetation, lawn, etc.
Okay.
I have a question on the roof gutters, the downspouts. Are they proposed to just downspout at the foundation, or is there a plan?
I was just looking at that. I think my intent was to tie them into the foundation drain, and I didn't make it clear on the plan here.
So that will, every rain event, just to commission to clear that the foundation drain will have not just intercept groundwater at that point, intercept the drainage from the roof, so discharge, whatever you rate it, discharge.
And that would tie in on that north corner where they, the 6.1 foot jog there. So the roof drain, if you look at this cross section here, the roof drain would be actually up here just below the grade, underground, so the downspouts would connect into that, and it would wrap around the house and discharge. It would connect to the foundation drain in this location here. So that would only be down a foot or two around the perimeter. Everything slopes in this direction, so we could easily connect that by gravity to this point.
Do you have any thoughts, Sam, on the dissipator, the end of the foundation drain?
That's standard.
It's standard, and you think that's adequate and?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see some attenuation, but no, there's not much we can do there. Kind of is what it is.
Well, it has to be at the 16.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do with the
So,
elevation, right?
I mean, I don't know if it would make any sense to bring it over that way.
Mm.
I think, if that's, they want to have a small area.
Yeah. And it's all gonna end up with the relative, it seems.
All goes downhill.
All right, any other commissioner questions or comments?
I mean, is there a reason why the roof drains would have to be tied into the foundation drain? Could it just,
It's probably better for, yes, so, I'm sorry, if you had more to say.
I was just wondering if it would just naturally dissipate out into the lawn area, or were there any landscaping areas that it could?
Could I suggest that the foundation drain could be a perforated pipe from the corner of the building, corner of the house to the dissipator, so it kind of allows some infiltration to decrease the outflow kind of that pipe? I mean, there's a pretty good length of pipe there. If it was perforated with kind of a...
Yep, I'm fine with that.
trench.
My only reservation is the setback to the septic system, but I understand exactly. I think it's lower than the septic and won't really impact it,
Yeah.
and vice versa. But
So,
we have no issue with that. We could do perforated pipe and crush stone.
I think that would be, because it would decrease the flow coming out of that
Yeah.
every storm.
Yep.
And Corey, to build on kind of what you were, having multiple downspouts, especially in the time that the grass isn't stabilized, it could create scouring and kind of more of an issue. You'd rather have one centralized location with a riprap pad, so that, and it's kind of dissipated rather than scouring, or put the potential to scour and erode and stuff.
yeah.
That would be the point of kind of tying it all together into one.
Well, I don't know, I was just thinking if there was a pipe that could push the runoff from the roof to a landscaped area, it could potentially, infiltrate into the ground more naturally. But it doesn't show any landscaping on the plan at all. So do you plan to have landscaping?
I'm sure they do. I'm not sure exactly what that Looks like we weren't asked to look at that at this stage. I'm sure there'll be planting beds somewhere. But just to go back to Sam's, I think we'll do a crushed stone, 1 foot by 1 foot all around the 4-inch pipe, and definitely small storms and things will infiltrate before overflowing. So the purpose for a roof drain is to, you know, as Sam was saying, we scour at various downspouts near the house, creating potential erosion and also flooding into the house. So if we can contain that and move it away from the house and daylight it down gradient, which is where it's going to go anyway. In this case, we're hitting an energy dissipator, and that is going to spread out through this whole area through here. So we'll have a chance to infiltrate once again, and also go through this vegetation, and it will reduce the velocities, and you'll have clean water. Roof runoff is considered clean water. That will, these plants will utilize in this area.
Are there any comments from the public? Okay. Hearing none. So we are going to go to a perforated pipe from the roof drain. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and conservation markers are on the plan. I would like to have some sort of a condition that there will be minimal disturbance getting to the river, getting to the beach. Either, by an existing path, if it exists, or by finding a way through, a cut no wider than 4 feet.
No wider than 4 feet.
And that's only if really necessary, if you can't get out through there.
I have a path no wider than 4 feet to the beach shall avoid trees where possible. Is that acceptable?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
How exactly do the lot lines work here because of the way it's a condo?
Yeah, so,
When you say the proposed exclusive line, is that what their lot is?
Yeah, so the lot line is actually the perimeter of the island. It's a condo.
Yeah.
So they get exclusive use areas that everybody refers to as their lots. So.
So should we run one more conservation marker over to the edge of, their exclusion line there?
Sure.
See what I mean? Right.
Yep. No problem.
So that'd be a total of 4 conservation markers?
I think it's 5.
5.
Oh, 5?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah, five.
yes.
Yeah. Well, if no one else has comments, I am, oh,
I have a
Mike?
quick question. Should we be asking for a revised site plan by this Friday? To note the perforated drain pipe and the additional
And the additional
conservation marker?
conservation marker.
And
Okay.
landscaping areas?
I was gonna say, but what about any plantings? I mean, I don't know if it'd be beneficial to do some mitigation plantings to offset the encroachment into the 100-foot buffer zone.
We could ask for you to designate planting areas to be planted with native and appropriate vegetation. You're encroaching by 350 feet. Do we usually go 2 times on mitigation?
Typically for a mitigation plan, it's a 75% success rate and a 2-to-1 ratio.
Yeah, but I'm thinking if they're in, you know, they're in there to 350 feet, we have a formula for, that we sometimes use,
The
2-to-1 or,
I know that the 2-to-1 planting ratios for replication within a wetland.
right.
This is the 350 within the 100 to 75-foot buffer zone.
It complies, and what we're proposing complies and protects the resource area. I will reach out to the owner and see what I can do for some plantings for you.
If you can get some designated areas,
Of course, he's out of the country, but
of course.
he did email me back, so see if I can get him.
Yeah, if you can just designate, you know, along the tree line.
Right.
Some type of planting bed that will also further protect the tree line.
And to be planted with native plantings.
With native plants.
I think we have a pallet from the other lots.
All right, I move to close the hearing with special conditions. Can you capture
Yes.
those special conditions there, Mike?
Yes, general conditions 1 through 18, prior to construction, conditions 5 and 2, during construction, condition 11, after construction, condition 1, erosion control, condition 1, 5 conservation markers to be placed as noted in the approved site plan, which is due on Friday.
This
And-
Friday, 2 days from now?
Yes, yep.
One, okay.
And then a 4-foot wide path to the beach shall avoid trees where possible. And also designated planting areas along the tree line for native planting should be on that approved site plan for Friday.
And the infiltration.
And the infiltration pipe.
All right. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Good
you.
night.
All right, that concludes the hearings. We are now on to requests for certificates of compliance. 2719, the Green Harbor Marina.
I can comment on this if you'd like.
Yes.
I met with Andrew Stewart and Jason from Brewer Green Harbor Marina, who's the regional manager over there. There was some confusion about from Andrew's comments, there was some confusion about if one of the tanks was installed below DFE. Andrew has since spoken with the general manager over there and is satisfied with the conditions. He's waiting on some structural diagrams from the tanks to make sure that they can withstand floating debris, essentially bumping into them. He's confident that they can, but he's just waiting on some documentation for his FEMA records for that for those tanks. Aside from that, he's comfortable with issuing a COC on this property, and Yes, there was also a planting plan associated with this property. The 3 cedars are, they're still alive. They're not doing too great. The high tide bush has really taken off in the area. There's many more. As you can even see in here, there's a lot of sprouting high tide bush in the area. It's really doing a good job colonizing. The switchgrass is still evident in the area where the cedar trees were, but the large majority of this area has been overrun by invasive Phragmites, which is typical for most of this area of town.
Well, at least we've got some high tide bush digging in.
Yeah.
Okay, so leaving aside Andrew's issues with the tanks, which is beyond our jurisdiction, they have met our conditions.
Yes, the area is successfully vegetated. Yes.
Okay. In that case, I move to issue a COC for SE 422719. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we've done Brewster Road. 2984, 25 Carolyn Circle. I move to continue to the next meeting, as we have had no movement on that, have we, Mike?
No.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
SE 422923, 162 Bay Avenue, still in a holding pattern there. I move to continue to the next meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And SE 422975 and 2975A, 160 Bay Avenue, also still holding. I move to continue to the next meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That completes our business. I move to close the Conservation Commission hearing of Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. A second, please.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.